Hey guys, how's it going? It is Tuesday, November 27th, 2018, about 10:50 p.m. I'll try to keep my voice down, actually. I was just spending a little bit of time on a Tuesday night looking through YouTubes and then got on the forums, and I'll tell you something. Train Sim's getting to be a very interesting place. It hasn't been that way in a long time. Um, and whether or not, sometimes you get conversations on there that are, I don't even know what people are talking about half the time, but inside things, or, maybe to a local region like, England or Europe or whatever. I don't even know what the heck they're talking about half the time in some of these Run8 discussions. But suddenly, we're getting to the core of the meat, so to speak. And it's interesting because, first of all, I've been very clear about one thing this year, and that is I'm not in any wars or battles or grudges or anything with anybody or any company or anything really, any servers. All that drama left a long time ago. And I think some people, I saw a post earlier today that seemed, I don't know if it was directed at me or not, it seemed that way, but it was probably in reference to, if I was to guess, or at least assume, it had something to do with cliques and groups and stuff like that. Now, these things happen. In fact, I can tell you right now that, although maybe not as prominent or public, there's certainly, I think we're all part of cliques or groups or little communities or whatever. So, I mean, I have a group of friends. Everybody has a group of peers or whatever. So saying that there's cliques or whatever, that's one thing. The discussion that I've been trying to open up more and more, I think has to do with lack of information, certain experiences, I guess you would say, whether good, bad, or whatever. I've seen in certain situations that I've been in, with no hard feelings, I've made the decisions that I've made. I go on whatever forums I feel comfortable going on to. I go on the servers I feel comfortable going on to. So ultimately, I mean, I could decide at any point. And even Southwest server, for example, the one that I frequent, pretty much the only one I frequent right now. Like Southeast server, for example. Let me just say that the Southeast server still exists. That is an RTS server. And there's nothing personal as to why I don't frequent it or be a part of it. It just doesn't fit what I'm looking for. So I choose to go on to the Southwest server. That's the same thing with other servers, other forums. Some have to do more with the way things are run. Some have to do how I feel, maybe the way the admin structure is, or too many people with too much power, atmosphere. There's all kinds of reasons and experiences. And for me to say that people shouldn't go to a server, I've never said people shouldn't go to a server or whatever they want to do. Everybody should have options, and I think options are a great thing. I've always been a proponent to options. I get more, I've seen more discussion against options. And I'm like, no, what's wrong with having an option so that people can choose what they want to do? I think it's great. I've always thought it's great. Options are what grows communities. Even if it means having the ability to have your own little groups and your own little subgroups or whatever, I think that's great. But I'll use a case in point right now. So I'm on the Southwest server, or even my own server or whatever in the past, and they have a certain number of days that the host is available to run. And if work comes up or something happens, like for example, or work comes up, or if something happens on my end and I can't make it, well then suddenly that part of the week is gone. So I'll miss out in that, and then I'll have to go to it, you know, I'll have to try again next week. That happened the week prior for me, for example. And I was a regular central dispatcher. So being a regular central dispatcher, what we would call the central region on the Southwest server, I usually would, you know, I'd be open to others, you know, if they wanted to run it, and I could go run because I didn't want to hog that position. But generally speaking, I would take that position because I didn't have the eastern route, and the host always took over the east because it allowed him to do other things, and then west region was usually taken by another gentleman. To name names, Chris usually would be in the west, and Mike would be in the east. So I would take central. So there's others that, you know, were interested, and I always wanted to, you know, not feel like central's mine, you can't have it type. No, that's just something that I like doing, or my preferential position, but I'm open to do other things. In fact, tomorrow night I knew I couldn't dispatch, so I was like, I can't dispatch. I said right off the bat, I can't dispatch. So I'm going to go, you know, I'll run a train. I'll be back at 9:30 or something, because I had to watch my son for a couple hours tomorrow night. Well, as it turns out, what ended up happening was Mike had a range or something to do with work or something that came up, so he canceled tomorrow's session. And the week prior, I was away a little bit, but I know yesterday I was pretty frustrated with running. It happens sometimes, and even though I prefer the Southwest, even that isn't always into my best liking per se, but I go with it as a choice. It's either I do that or I do something else, and there's times where I feel like maybe I should do something else. I've gone down that road before, and you could say, and it's easy for people to say, well, you can host your own server or you can go single player. That's not an option for some. Yeah, I know a lot of people can do single player and just run trains and be happy and content in Run8. I understand that. But there's also those that want to have the full potential of what Run8 could do within the confines of what they've purchased. So in other words, if you have the Southwest region, which now, you know, since version 2 has included needles, if you have that region and you like operations, you are going to want to run, or not necessarily, but let's say, I'll use my example. I'm going to want to run that with prototype levels, because Run8, as real as it gets, I want to run that at prototype levels, prototype traffic levels, prototype switching. I want to have you know, I want to see prototype traffic. I want to see all those things. All those things takes a lot of manpower for it to happen. And I know there's some popular servers out there that can do it, or at least they can try. But even the servers may or may not do things a certain way, and then you get into the issue that sometimes you get a server that gets so big, or one server goes down and vanishes, and then they don't have a home, and they just they find whatever they can find. Either some quit and never come back to Run8, which I know some did, or they find another server and they basically integrate themselves into the community, and eventually it's just, you know, some of it, or a little of this and a little of that. I've had instances, and this has happened on TrainSim, the forum, which I still frequent, and I was posting. There's some great articles, or there's great posts right now in the Run8 section. There's a lot of discussion going on, a little bit of drama, I suppose, but you know, everything's self-policing as far as I'm concerned. The admins are letting everything going. I think everybody's being fairly civil, including myself, I hope. But I believe in self-policing, and I believe it. I love it when the admins let things happen, and people just try to, you know, agree to disagree, or, you know, have a nice debate, or exercise the pros and cons, or if they feel somebody is quote unquote a troll, which I think I was accused of being, but I'm not positive on that. But anyways, if someone's so-called a troll, then they just ignore them. If that's the case, if they feel that they're just being a troll, or if they just feel like they're being... See, a lot of people, I think, easily categorize someone as a troll just because they don't agree with them, or just because they have a differing opinion. Yes, there are people out there that purposely try to create crap, and try to start crap, and are very confrontational. I am probably one of the least confrontational people. I hate conflict. But what I do is I like to stand up for what I believe in. So if something's on my mind, I'm not politically correct. I don't care. I think, you know, in those essences, you know, we should have these discussions. We should get to the bottom of it and work out differences. I believe in making a community better. So I'm very encouraged by the discussion that, you know, we saw. I can't believe these dogs are running around at 11 o'clock at night. They were doing this last night when I was going to bed. And usually I'm going to bed around this time and trying to keep my voice down, and they're running around. But anyways, so I can't believe that. Anyways, it's amazing. So I'll try to behave myself. But so yeah, these, you know, with these situations that take place, it's bound to happen in communities. You're going to have disagreements. You're going to have a little bit of drama. You're going to have personalities that don't always mesh. But I think overall, pushing more towards a community in whole, or to have a community that at least people can come to, especially when you're talking about train simulation. And the reason why I say that is, okay, so now tomorrow night the session's off. Could I go play single player? Sure I can. Could I go all of a sudden make up a session? I don't think people realize, especially with the amount of detail, if they're really into operations, how much it takes to put a session together. You know, it's not just a matter of you hosting and that's it. You know, it's setting up anybody who's even if it's not an operations session, just to get the trains ready and to make it interesting and appealing to attract others. There's a lot of work involved to anybody who hosts, no matter what level they host at. Anybody who hosts a Run8 session, I said this a long time ago, is a credit to the community. Whether or not people go to them, whether or not myself or others support it or want to go to it, I think it's great. I think it's great to have all these options. What I'm saying is there is segregation in the community. And when we decide, well, we're going to go to one forum or we're going to hang out at this forum because it's popular or whatever, and I know these guys are busy, and I know these guys have had health issues, and I know a lot of things. They're human. They're a small team, and I even posted this tonight. Sometimes you forget how small they really are compared to some of these bigger, high-budget companies who supposedly are competition. These guys aren't competition, in my opinion. They don't even come close to what Run8 can do. And I'm talking about the ones that just, basically have the great graphic artists and come up with a new version every year and got, a team of developers. I don't know how big they really are, but there's a lot of companies out there who have a lot of budget, who have a lot of resources, who can just throw at a project. And their aim is not the core Run8, so not Run8. They're not at the core railroad fanatic. They are after the casual gamer. The casual gamer, and yes, they do want to appeal to those who are into that hobby, because when they touch into that hobby, or when they get themselves embedded into that hobby, they bring enthusiasts. So they're bringing a niche, but at the same time they're trying to appeal themselves to the greater simulation community to say, hey, look at this, you can run a train, and maybe as a kid you like running a train. I've seen so many YouTube videos that talk about Train Sim World as the greatest train simulator out there, and these are by casual game YouTubers. I'm not talking about those dedicated like myself to run either Run8 or train simulation like I do on my YouTube channel. I kid you not, I saw this YouTube video the other day and saying how great it was and how it was the most realistic train simulator, and they probably never even heard of Run8. But yet they were showing all the visuals and how immersive it was and all this other stuff. And yeah, there's a lot of graphics and sounds that are very immersive. But if you knew how a train really operates, even from a rail fan perspective, I can tell how a train doesn't stop on a dime. So, and I'm not, I've been fortunate. Run8's actually got me closer together to know people like Scott who've worked on the railroad. Dale, who out west, former member of the Run8 team, the guy who got me into Run8, admin on Train Sim. I mean, him and I, we've had our good times, we've had our bad times, but it was Dale that got me into Run8. He was the one that said, I know something, Sean, that you'll like. But that was when I had the RTS project, and I still have the RTS project. And the reason why it's not so easy for me to just flick a switch and say, hey, let's do it. I posted tonight, I said, sometimes I just wonder if I could do half of what these guys had done. I'm talking about the Run8 team, and started, say, 5-6 years ago. Would I be happier now if I had made those decisions? The what ifs. What ifs are the worst things that you can procrastinate on, like the what if. What if you just did it? The Run8 team did it. But they also had some confidence. They also had a track record before that developing for Microsoft Train Simulator. The closest thing I ever did was I tried developing a little bit of a route for Run8, not Run8, sorry, Microsoft Train Simulator. I certainly wrote activities. I dived very heavily into that, but activities never sold, but there was a lot of people who downloaded my activities. I wrote these very extensive continuing activities, is what I called them. And these were in the early days of RTS back in, I guess it would probably be 2010. Sounds about right. Maybe even a little bit earlier, 2008, 2009, somewhere around there maybe. It was in the last days with me with Microsoft Train Simulator, and I was just trying to find something else, and the thing was, we were really lacking a simulator at the time, and then Run8 came along. And Dale was right. It was what I wanted. So version 3 of Run8 is on the horizon. It's been, I don't know how many, I'm losing count of how many years Run8's been around now. I take it's been 6 or 7. I know it's getting up there. I mean, it was in development. It's getting to the point now where I'm, as each year goes by, trying to remember, when this all started or how long it's been around. But there is a lot of people out there who want to contribute, not just develop things. There are people, or just build routes or whatever. There are people who want to contribute. There are people that want to do something. When you don't get information, and you're enthusiastic about a product, or you're enthusiastic about a particular niche in the hobby, you're basically you're frustrated. You want information. You understand why they're protecting information, but at the same time it's frustrating to you because you realize that if people would simply try to copy what Run8 has already done, they would actually be competition. But guess what? There's nobody that has done it. I don't see anybody who's really copied what Run8 has done. So to be, having an idea, and believe me, I was very protective about some of my ideas as well, because I still am a developer. I know I haven't developed much, and the reason why I haven't is, number one, experience, more recent experience to more recent game engines and graphics and stuff like that. I'm more of a text-based programmer than I am when it comes to graphics or even communications. This is why I'm looking at pushing an RTS dispatcher or even a 2D top-down simulator. The reason why I'm going the dispatcher route is because it seems to be the one thing I like to do. It also seems to be the one thing I'm frustrated with external dispatcher. If anything, last night has reiterated how frustrated I am with external dispatcher. And this is not a knock on external dispatcher. External dispatcher is way better than the F3 dispatcher screen in Run8. The thing is, it's dated. TSCAD's been in develop for what, 2 years or something? And there seemed to be development, and I don't know what's happening. I heard it was in beta a few months ago, but I haven't heard any more, so I don't know what's going on with it. Are they waiting for something that perhaps they know, or maybe they know something, or maybe they're waiting to see if version 3 comes out first, or I really don't know. Because the last I heard, I should say, was that version 3 was in development a year ago, and that it was hopefully going to be done by the end of this year. We're about to enter December. We still haven't heard anything. There's certainly, I mean, I kind of laughed, and when I saw the T-shirt sales, I thought it was a joke at first when somebody said that they were selling T-shirts or something. And I mean, yeah, and I don't mean to be cruel on that, but it wasn't the news that I was hoping to see. I was hoping to see some news, not, here's a T-shirt to sell because everybody wants it so bad, but apparently, yes, people do, and they figured it was a way to make some money to support Run8. It's just, I understand there's been health issues. I understand there's other issues. I just would like to see the entire community, or at least somebody, give me or give us some information. Give us some information. Give us an idea. But everything is so tight-lipped. And other developers will be willing to tease and show all kinds of stuff as what's coming. And they have a lot more competition to be afraid of. Run8, what competition are they worried about exactly? Are we worried about Train Sim World? Seriously? I mean, Train Sim World's appealing. Actually, I heard Scott was downloading it or getting it or something like that. Hopefully he'll put some YouTube videos out or show me what you can do with that thing, because I don't have a good enough computer, quite frankly, but I don't know. I just can't. I thought about it, and I thought about the editor, and I thought, well, the editor that's coming, and I thought, well, maybe, and then I realized, yeah, but to have the editor, you really need a very powerful computer. And I was thinking more of this before I was able to finalize the plans for the move, because I was much more concerned about making money. See, now 2019, I'm not concerned about making money. I'm concerned, my interest now is finding the massive hobby that is going to propel me to develop and start using my creative talents that I have. And most of that over the past 6 or 7 years has been pushed towards Run8, as in RTS or a server, or developing ideas and techniques of manipulating data, and various techniques of using what's in Run8 version 2, for example, to like things that weren't designed in Run8 version 2 that you can basically simulate switching of yards, for example. That's one thing you can do. One thing that I've talked about or even shown is what you can do. For those of you that that like single player, and you want to simulate the switching of a yard, you can actually create yard tracks as set-offs, and you can basically bring your trains up to them to simulate the switching of the industries that are local to that yard. So there's ways of doing it, and then if you want to switch it, you can still switch it, the industries, but if you don't feel like doing it, you won't lose the time, and then you can continue to evolve in time. The only problem with that is you need a route that you can dispatch properly, or you would want one if you wanted to. If you want to, there's a lot of ways that you can do single player. There's very creative ways of doing it. Actually, Scott's been doing one lately, where he's Roseville or whatever, he's got the hump or something. He's simulating that it's part of something, or bringing Barstow as Roseville and making it part of the UP system or something, which is interesting. my thing right now, and this is where I can't get into, like, I want a smaller region, and I've heard the argument, well, yeah, you could, there's a lot of things you can do, you can do this part of Bakersfield, and you can do that, and I've countered it to say, well, yeah, you can, but then you have to proto-lance the fact that you're crossing a transcon main, and you're losing all that traffic that you're supposed to be dispatching. There's really very little. There are places that you can run short lines a little bit better, or you can just, like you say, you can proto-lance it. If you want to proto-lance it and do whatever you want, you can do whatever you want. The sky's the limit. But having a region that is built more towards the single player, and something that they can seriously handle. I mean, if you guys ever load, for example, classic example, you load any of the scenario, the quote unquote scenarios that come with Run8 for the worlds that actually simulate the AI traffic and everything like that. All those operations and the industries and everything that's associated with them, you know, you could try doing it in single player, but you're not going to be able to keep up unless you just slowly take your time at it and not worry about days and hours, and not worry about the fact that your cars are sitting there doing nothing for 7 days. I mean, if that's what you want to do, you can do it that way. Like I say, you can proto-lance. But ideally, I think what would really be encouraging for, there's a few things that'd be encouraging for single player. One, the regions, and apparently that's coming. I haven't seen any evidence on the site that shows that new developers are being added. I also haven't seen any evidence on the site that there's new routes being added. I haven't seen any evidence of it. So, unless the evidence is there, and to me that's not a trade secret, or that's not something that's giving away something, but I mean, this is the same company that, or you know, outfit that basically advertised the Alaska Railroad for the longest time, and then they pulled it. They had other ones that they had, and you know, other regions like Yuma Sub. So there was all kinds of things and ideas that they had that they were going to develop at one time that eventually they didn't get around to doing for whatever reason. I'd be curious about Alaska, to be quite honest. I'd be very curious. You know, to me that's something that's probably more manageable, I would think, but I don't know. I know it's, you know, there's still some traffic up there, that's for sure. But that's more feasible and interesting to me. But I think the biggest thing, and it's something that I'm actually looking to work on, and it's something that I wanted to do this past year. Things came up. Things are up right now still. You know, I got a little time here and there in between. I could probably be productive in that time if I really wanted to do it. But instead, I'm still working out, you know, I'm trying to work out what's going on. I'm trying to get a feel as to what's going on with Run8. Despite the fact that I have my own ambitions, I really would like to see what's going to happen with Run8. Not to mention that I got the move going on. So it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of determination, it takes a lot of time to really dedicate to something. Developing a program is not as simple, hey, I want to develop a program, you just start writing and boom, pop, there it is. The development for Run8 for a small group of guys took place, I believe, 1 to 2 years before its release, at least one. So it doesn't happen overnight, and it certainly doesn't happen an hour at a time or whatever. It takes a lot of work. And like I said, even tonight in the forum posts, had I started, I wonder if I had started 7 years ago just to get 50% of what they've been doing. Hell, I'd take 25%, maybe even 10% of what they were able to do, which is why I'm kind of focusing on Dispatcher. And that's something that I feel I can handle. But the one thing that I'm really want to work on, two goals for me personally, and this is with or without Run8 or whatever, I want to be able to focus on AI. I think having AI and the option of AI, not necessarily, you know, I'm all for multiplayer, and I think multiplayer is great, but I think AI is the key. I think having smart, most games that I run, the better the AI is, the more immersive and fun it can be. And, you know, the dumber the AI or the more useless the AI is, the more it's required for humans to fill in that void. Or it requires too much, what do you call it? Not multitasking. It requires too much micromanaging is the term, where you're in some programs you're constantly having to oversee every single aspect. For example, Railroad Tycoon, Transport Fever, there's a lot of micromanaging involved in those. The bigger you develop your empire, instead of having goals and ambitions and having a team under you of AI management, like a real team would, where you would trust the capabilities. I mean, there's a lot of games that allow you to develop or actually hire managers and stuff like that. Even Railroad Tycoon, I think, has it. But once you have these managers, I Transport, no, I don't sure if Transport Fever has it, but I can't remember. But when you have those things, you know, having the AI in there to be able to, and with the dispatching, having the AI be able to automatically dispatch for you, and then have it dispatch multiple regions that connect to you, have the crews of the trains actually, and this is why I have no worries about putting this, because again, I'm not doing this solely for the money. I want to see the hobby expand. I'm looking to have crews that act like humans. I'm looking to have a train, like external dispatcher, for example. When a train, I don't know how many, Mike was joking with me the other night because I wasn't paying attention to one thing, and he was wondering if there was a weather delay up in the desert because none of there was 3 or 4 trains that were just sitting there. I was so focused on things. And that's because of the weakness of the program. Despite how much better it is than F3, it's unfortunately it's never been developed further. And I know how to dispatch, and I know how to use the tools of TD3, and TD3 is actually an outdated program in itself. I plan on expanding on it. I want to make TD3 better. And I don't want to just make my own. There's people who have developed their own routes or their own simulations of various towers and all that other stuff. I don't want to do that. I want to have the ability to have a simulator that can use edited data that the community can provide. That way, I involve the community to create, just like TD3 does. And once I've done that, hopefully that will be the catalyst to bring in more sales to the product. And I know TD3 is highly in demand still. Hopefully I can bring something to it. Wow, it's 11:30. I'm still yapping. Time for me to go to bed. But yeah, that's hopefully something I can bring. But the next level, that's the confidence builder. That gets me at least into something that I can run on a regular basis. I like running TD3, but to run my own dispatcher simulation, honestly, if Run8 doesn't evolve or continue, I could be quite happy just running a dispatcher simulation that simulates what's going on in Run8 and have the tones and have the communications and stuff that you would come to expect, like switching movements that actually act like switching movements, like generic movements. Not just generic movements, I should say, but actually feel like realistic movements, some randomization. There's all kinds of things that TD3 becomes too generic. I want it to truly feel as if you are dispatching a railroad, and nothing makes it feel more for me than Run8 does, or or a model railroad. A good sized model railroad does a good job at it, but TD3 doesn't feel authentically that you're running a real railroad based on the lack of the human element and the lack of the communication interface. That's what I want to improve. I want to bridge that gap in my experience with Run8, and I've done dispatching for years in a simulated environment. So yeah, that's my goal coming up. But once I have that, again, as I said, that'll then lead to having the probably depending upon, and I always say depending upon what Run8 is doing, it all is, or whatever the whatever so-called competition shows what it has available. That's where I will focus then on a train simulator, or a railroad simulator, I should say. Not a train simulator, I actually want it to be a railroad simulator, and I will focus on that. And I will incorporate the RTS dispatcher into it, so that everything will be able to run in the background, and then not only will at first the humans be able to run the yards, but eventually it'll be more than just the humans. It will be AI running the show. So every single train will be capable of not only running from point A to point B, but it'll be able to switch, do its set-offs, do its pickups, follow a switch list, etc. And even yard master a yard under a set of parameters and rules that would be editable by anybody. So you basically edit the world, and the creation is limited to what the program is capable of doing in one's imagination. And I want to leave that imagination and the limits to those out there who have the creative talents. There's a lot of guys. I know Scott has some very creative talents. I want Scott to have a canvas that he can do these things. So, and I know Scott wishes it was here today or last year or whatever. I know he's frustrated. There's a lot of people that are frustrated. I know, there's a lot of, it sounds like I'm stirring up crap or drama or whatever. There are a lot of people that are frustrated. I know them. And I didn't ask anybody to post on Train Sim, by the way. And I've already seen a lot of people react to these videos. I'm not trying to cause crap or drama or burn bridges or get people bent out of shape. I want people to continue to have this discussion, because this isn't about me. This isn't about me building a simulator or anything like that. This isn't about my server. Obviously, I don't have one. My forum is dead, and I'm okay with that. I don't care about that. My forum is there whenever I need it. For now, I'm not worried about it. Here, I'll show you. That's my homepage. And if you go look at how old these are, it doesn't really say. But these were last posted, there you go, about a month ago. So you got stuff that's a year ago. Everything's in there. It's outdated. So, I mean, there's nothing going on there. I have not updated it basically because I don't have anything to update. But then again, I'm not selling anything at the moment. I'm still in the process of trying to figure out how and when and how and what game engine to use and stuff like that. The game engines will be pretty simple for the dispatching, I think. But anyways, that's about it now. I should get going to bed. So I thought I'd throw that one out there for you guys. I appreciate the reference to my video too on Train Sim. I didn't ask anybody to do it. Well, did I mention to say people should go take a look? I think I said people should take a look on there, but I certainly don't need. I haven't asked anybody to you know, go to bat for me or try to share my feelings with everybody else. I share enough of my feelings on there, but I do appreciate people who have seen something I've said and agree with me or think, you know, that I'm onto something. And if you do disagree with me too, that's okay. It's not about these various groups or cliques or whatever I want to call them. It's really about what's happening with Run8 and where is it headed. And I know a lot of people have a lot of faith in Run8. Perhaps I just am not inside enough to know what's really going on or have enough confidence. Maybe there's a reason why a lot of people have confidence that they can be more trusted or whatever. I don't know. But I haven't heard information for a while. And it's good that they're doing something, and they're obviously trying to generate money. And I don't think they're in it for the money. I can say this much: they are not in it for the money. They're not trying to scam people. Okay, I know that for sure. Okay, I know that for a fact. I know these guys, and I know these guys enough. They're not trying to scam people. I know that. They got lives. They got, you know, they got things they got to do. They got bills to pay. So, perhaps that's a good sign. Maybe that means that they're trying to get enough funds, and they're looking to change a game engine, or I'm not sure. Maybe they're running into difficulties too. These things happen. And for them to announce that they're running into difficulties is also probably not the biggest image they want to portray out there, but I fear they're going to have complications. Just as from a developer myself, and knowing some of the things that can happen, and, you know, I was programming professionally. I know development life system cycles, a lot of things can happen. And, you know, you do a feasibility analysis, and all of a sudden you realize, whoa, this is a little bit more than we bargained for, or we're at critical capacity, and the throughput's not working. I mean, I'm using all kinds of fancy terms, but, you know, the throughput's not enough for what the game engine can handle, and all, you know, it's lagging the system, the frame rates are dropping, all kinds of things that could be happening if they're trying to put too much in too little a package. I fear that that's what could be happening, and I'm sure they're working on it, and I'm sure they're hoping to find a way around it. Or maybe they've got so much going on that they're almost right there. Where's T-Scat? I don't know. So I'm not worried about T-Scat, to be quite honest, but because for me, I'd rather develop my own dispatcher program anyways. So, and whether it's Run8 compatible or not, that remains to be seen. But I'm just going to do my own thing. I keep looking at that icon there, so that's the thing. Anyways, I'm ending this because I'll be talking all night if I don't get to sleep. So, anyways, guys, nothing going on tomorrow night. That's the other thing. The session has been canceled. I got my son for a couple hours. Maybe I'll do something else tomorrow night. Maybe I should really go through and try to continue getting prepared for the move. I've made some actually pretty good advances so far, but I want to keep that momentum and make sure that I'm ready in plenty of time. Okay guys, that's it for now, so we will see you whenever. I don't know when, but perhaps next week, perhaps weekend, likely by the weekend. Anyways, have a good one. We'll talk to you later. See ya.